So for the days that you want to use our roller, once you wedge your clay, you're going to flatten it. Your first few times are just slapping it down to kind of flatten it. Then you're going to grab on one side, and as you throw, you're going to bring it towards yourself. And as you notice, it gets a little bit longer each time, so rotate. See how it kind of hits? It catches on one end, and it drags. When you pick it up, usually look for your thicker side. This just gets it far enough down that the roller isn't doing too much work because we can damage them. Okay, so that one does that. If you want, you can either right now, you actually use a cooking roller and two rulers. We have them in the back here. So you can actually keep your height just by doing this. Or we can actually go use the big roller, which we're going to right now. So here's our pottery roller. This is the easier one with the wind up and wind down crank. There is another one with two screws. You have to tighten and loosen each knob to raise and lower the roller. So you're going to take a piece of canvas. There's quite a few off to the side right here. You're going to lay it down, put your clay on it. You're going to get a second piece of canvas. You're going to cover it. This is going to keep the clay from sticking to the rollers, because you don't want to have to clean them. So you're going to kind of roll it close, and look how, you can't really see it from this angle with this bump, but you compare how high this is. You don't want to force it through the machine because you could break the bearing. So you're going to raise it until it's pretty close. Then it's going to roll it through once. Normally you go through the other side and you check how thick it is, rotate if you need to, maybe lower it by half a crank. But just so I don't walk in front of the camera, I'm just going to roll it back through towards me, just to check. So you can see it's flattened a little bit. Considering how long it is, you only get a little bit at a time. When you lower, it's going to crack. I want to go a little more this way, so I'm going to twist it. And just put it down. I usually go down by about 3/4 of one full crank. The max you want to do is 2. Okay, as you can see, it's here. It's getting a little bit thinner. It's not quite as thin as I want it. But as you roll, you'll notice that things start just kind of cracking on the sides. And this is because when you flatten it, it spreads it out. But it also puts stress on the clay itself, so it's actually going to split. Your 1/4 and 3/4 of a roll ones don't usually do it much. Like you're doing 2 full turns, you often get a lot of cracking on the edge, which is fine. You just take your hand and you kind of push these in a bit just to re-fatten them up so the rollers can hit them again. And if need be, you go back to the wedging table, you fold it in half and just roll through again. You can just use the mat as well to bring it through. Don't get your fingers in there because you will know it. Okay. This is pretty close to the size of one. I want one more roll off of it though. Okay, if you notice when I picked it up, there's an air bubble right there. So I will have to take a sharp afterwards and lance it out because air will explode. A couple of them. Which means I didn't quite wedge it just enough. But you often get air pockets in anyhow. You just gotta make sure that they're not there when they go to fire the clay. I also want to make sure, because as I go through, let's see if you can see this. As I go through, the clay will slowly extend outwards. You can see it's getting closer to the edge. Make sure it doesn't go over and doesn't go onto our rollers. Close, but it is. Okay. So when you're done, you take your mat off, you hang it back up. Don't fold our mats because it does damage them and puts creases in them, which will then appear in the clay. You can now take the piece, using this to your table, because this gives you a much sturdier piece to pick up by. It's like a pizza, hang underneath it. Getting this off the canvas is a little more fun. If you're fairly decent, you can carefully pick up so you don't stretch your clay. Or your other trick is to actually flip it onto your table, which I'll show you in a few moments here. Okay, so with this, it really depends what you want to do. If you're going to use it like for a base or a flat building, you get a piece of newspaper. Make sure it covers all your bits just because you don't want to create problems. You could either just put it right on the table if you're going to work there, but there's no point in putting it there then moving it again. So you can either flip it here or get your proper size board. If you need 2 people, just ask. People are often willing to give you a hand. And you're either just going to fold it over or flip it sideways, which is usually your easier one. But just do the angle of the camera, did it lengthwise, and there you go. And if you were smart, if you needed your signature and the stamp on the bottom, you'd have done this first. And concerned I forgot to show it to you, even though I have the pieces here to do so. It shows you what a common error it is. So, be smarter than me, and you are set to go.